If you're an architect, you know the pressure all too well. You're told to build a disaster recovery plan that can survive anything. But what if that default protect everything at all costs approach is not just crazy expensive, but actually less effective? Today, we're going to talk about a much smarter way to build resilience on AWS, and it starts by ditching that one-size-fits-all model for good.
You know, this quote right here, it just hits the nail on the head. When every stakeholder is demanding Fort Knox-level security for every single app, you end up stretching your budget, your resources, and your focus so thin that you can't properly protect the things that really matter. It's a no-win situation.
And that brings us to this, what I call the resilience paradox. On one side, you've got the business screaming for 100% uptime, right? But on the other, you've got the cold, hard reality of a finite IT budget. Trying to give every single workload maximum resilience is just a fast track to burning through cash and, honestly, failing to protect your most critical assets. So, how do we get out of this mess?
Well, we start by busting a myth, the all-or-nothing myth, the idea that you only have one big, red, incredibly expensive DR button to push for everything. It's just not true. Look, not all applications are created equal, so why on earth should their recovery plans be?
The real solution here isn't some new fancy piece of tech. It's actually a strategic exercise. It is all about classifying your workloads with intention. It means you got to step back from the code for a minute and make some deliberate, business-driven decisions about what gets which level of protection.
So how do we actually do that? Where do you even start? Well, the very first step is to break down your entire application portfolio into logical tiers of importance. And this has nothing to do with technology, it's all about business impact.
We can actually simplify this into 3 basic tiers. First up, you've got your mission-critical apps. These are the crown jewels, right? Your e-commerce site, your core transaction systems. If they go down, you are literally losing money and customer trust by the second. Then you have business-important apps. An outage here causes a lot of internal pain. Think of an internal analytics dashboard or an HR system. It's super disruptive for sure, but it's not a public-facing fire. And finally, you've got the nice-to-haves. This is stuff like your dev and test environments. If they go down, it's an annoyance for the team, not a crisis for the company. Okay, so we've got our business tiers. That's a huge step. But now we need to translate that business speak into a language that we architects and engineers can actually build against. And that, my friends, is where RTO and RPO come into play. This is so important to get right because people mix these up all the time. Let's break it down. RTO, Recovery Time Objective, answers one simple question. How fast do we need to be back online? It's all about minimizing downtime. RPO, Recovery Point Objective, answers a different question. How much data can we afford to lose? It's all about minimizing data loss. Getting the difference between these two locked in is absolutely the key to designing a DR plan that's both effective and affordable.
All right, enough theory. Theory is great, but let's see how this stuff actually works in the real world. We're going to take a small, pretty common portfolio of applications and apply this exact framework.
So first up is Application A. This is our public e-commerce website. You know, the front door to the entire business. It's where all the money is made.
So no surprise here, this is absolutely mission critical. We define the RTO as less than 15 minutes. We have to be back up and running fast. And the RPO, less than 1 minute. There is no way we can afford to lose customer orders. These kinds of aggressive targets are completely non-negotiable when an app is tied directly to revenue.
Because of that super aggressive RTO and RPO, we'd map this to a high availability pattern like warm standby on AWS. This basically means we have a scaled down but fully functional version of our entire environment just sitting there in another region, ready to take over traffic almost instantly. Yeah, it's not cheap, but for this workload, it's 100% justified.
Okay, let's look at Application B. This is an internal dashboard. Our business intelligence team uses it to track sales trends and that sort of thing. It's important for sure, but 0 customers ever lay eyes on it.
So we'll classify this as business important. And just look at the difference in the recovery objectives. An RTO of under 4 hours and an RPO of under 24 hours. I mean, if it's down for a few hours, yeah, it's a huge pain for the BI team, but the company itself will be fine. We can totally afford to just restore from last night's backup. And this right here lets us use a much more cost-effective pattern, something like Pilot Light. With this, the core infrastructure, it exists as code, and the data is kept in sync. But the main application servers, they aren't actually running 24/7. We only spin them up when a disaster is declared. We still meet our objective, but without the high cost of an always-on environment. See how that works?
And finally, let's talk about Application C. This is a simple dev and test environment for the next-gen mobile app. It's basically a sandbox where our engineers go to experiment and break things.
This is a classic nice-to-have. And the RTO/RPO totally reflects that. I mean, if it's down for 2 days, it slows down development, but it has zero, and I mean zero, impact on customers or revenue. We could probably even lose a week's worth of experimental code, and it wouldn't be the end of the world. To over-engineer resilience here is literally just setting money on fire. And this just perfectly illustrates the whole point. For this tier, the simple, good old-fashioned backup and restore pattern is more than enough. We take regular backups, we store them somewhere safe, and if something breaks, we restore from them. It's the cheapest option by far, and for this workload, it is absolutely the right option.
So, here's the magic. We can take all of this logic, the tiers, the RTO/RPO targets, the AWS patterns, and we can synthesize it all down into a single, incredibly powerful blueprint that you can take back and use with your team tomorrow. And here it is, the Strategic Resilience Matrix. Think of this as your cheat sheet. It connects the business language of tiers directly to the technical language of RTO/RPO, and then to the specific AWS solutions that make sense. So the next time someone asks why the dev environment doesn't have a multi-site active-active setup, you can just point right to this matrix. You can use it to justify your decisions, guide your planning, and communicate your whole strategy with total clarity. You know, when you start using a framework like this, it does something amazing. It elevates your role. You stop just talking about technical costs and you start leading a strategic conversation with the business. Now you're talking about acceptable risk, about smart budget allocation, and about real business priorities. All of it grounded in a clear, logical model. The takeaway here is pretty simple. Stop treating every workload the same. Use this framework. Have smarter conversations and build resilience that is both powerful and practical. And that really just leaves one question. What's the first over-provisioned, nice-to-have workload in your portfolio that you're going to go reclassify?